Thank you all for joining us today. I honestly cannot tell you how excited Rose Community Foundation is to host the book launch for Souls of a Survivor, which is available starting today anywhere books are sold. Local bookstores, online retailers, you name it. So if you haven't purchased or ordered yours already, we certainly hope you will after today's discussion. May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, which makes us particularly proud to be hosting this conversation today with Nhi Aronheim, a Vietnamese refugee turned Coloradan whose personal story spans multiple geographies, nationalities, cultures, and religions. In the audience today, we have members of the local Asian American and Pacific Islander community, attendees who represent and advocate for immigrants and refugees, members of Denver's Jewish community, alumni of the Wexner Fellowship Program, in which Nhi's husband, Jeff, participated, alumni of Rose Community Foundation's Roots and Branches program, of which Nhi is an alum, among many others. The breadth of our audience truly speaks to the many intersections of Nhi's incredible memoir. Rose Community Foundation operates at many of the same intersections, rooted in our own Jewish history and values, with a mission of advancing inclusive, engaged, and equitable Greater Denver communities through values-driven philanthropy. Over the past several years, as our nation and our community has been impacted by shifts in federal immigration policy, escalating discriminatory rhetoric, and troubling upticks in hate crimes, Rose Community Foundation has deployed the tools we have at our disposal, our grant-making dollars and our voice, to support organizations on the front lines of serving our immigrant and refugee neighbors with the aim of ensuring that our community feels welcoming and safe for all. But the data and the headlines only tell a fraction of these stories. Proximity creates empathy, and empathy creates action. That is why we are so fortunate that Nhi is giving us an up-close and personal look into the sacrifices and risks that so many families take to provide a better future for their children. Having come full circle from prosperity to poverty and back, Nhi hopes to encourage others to believe that no matter the overwhelming odds, all things are possible. Her journey spans multiple continents and reveals inspiring common threads, experiences, and humanity between different cultures and religions. So it is my honor and my privilege to welcome Nhi Aronheim. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Lindy. Before we get started, I want to thank you and Rose Community Foundation for hosting this virtual book event for me on such a special day. I also want to thank all the attendees who take time out of their busy schedule to come and celebrate with me on the launch date of my book.
Well, we are all honored to be with you on this special day. You know that I was so grateful when you gave me a sneak peek at the book 3 months ago. And I just want to warn our audience, I literally could not put it down. So make sure you carve out ample time for this book. But today, as you noted, is the official launch day of this book that you have worked so hard on. What emotions are you feeling today?
This is the special launch day for me. When you talk about emotion, it is a mixture. Imagine a woman having to go through pregnancy for 3.5 years. And she gives birth, not to a baby, but to a book. That's how I feel today when it comes to the launch date.
That is a metaphor that many of us can relate to. Since the book is coming out today, many people or most people in our audience haven't had a chance to read it yet. So I thought maybe we could start with the title itself, Souls of a Survivor. Can you share the meaning behind the title and provide kind of an overview of the journey?
Yes, Souls of a Survivor. It is a reference from my husband when it comes to my feet. And you say, why would it be a reference to your feet? And what happened is it's a story about a 12-year-old girl who escaped Vietnam on a political situation. And she trudged through the jungle of Cambodia. When she faced danger, she ran and lost her shoes, and she continued to run bare feet through the jungle. She eventually got to Thailand and stayed and lived in the refugee camp for 2 years. After 2 years, she immigrated to America as a political refugee, where she hid her past. She was ashamed of her past. She was hiding, not wanting people to see about her ugly, tough, rough feet. Many years later, that girl grew up to be like me. And I got married, and my husband made a comment one day. He said, "You have the roughest and toughest feet I've ever seen in my life. Just like you and your spirit, Nhi." He said, "You might as well embrace you for who you are, because your feet are the living proof of your spirit and your past." And that's why he called them souls of a survivor.
Wow. You have a very wise husband.
He is, and I'm fortunate.
So I know you've lived in Colorado for 22 years now. And I know you've made friends through your different careers, your involvement with Toastmasters, your children's schools and activities, through Roots and Branches, and through your synagogue. You mentioned hiding your story at certain parts of your life, and I'm curious, do your Colorado community and all these people that know you through these different ways, have you shared your story with them previously, or is this book going to really surprise and enlighten people?
Thank you for asking that question. Over the years, I've shared stories with my friends and people in the community, but I only share a small part of my story. I did not share the full story until now.
Wow. Well, and we're grateful you did. It truly, it is a gift. It is a gift to the world, and to all who read the book. You've already described how at 12 years old, you escaped Vietnam. Your mother helped you escape on your own, and the harrowing journey that you had through Cambodia and to Thailand that I think most of us could not even fathom experiencing for ourselves, let alone as a child. Can you talk about what inspired you to put pen to paper? And why now? Why share the story now?
What really inspired me, or who really inspired me to write a book? Actually, it was my children. Over the years at the dinner table, I usually share with them the story a little bit here, a little bit there, the way I've done with my friends. Until 3.5 years ago, my children came to me at the dinner table saying, "You know, you always told us stories a little bit here or there, but you never told us the full story so that we would know about our heritage. Would you consider writing down your story for us?" And I kept saying no for many years to everyone else. But when my children asked me that question, I could not say no. And that night I told my husband I might have to think about it and put it in writing. And once I decided and I finished the book, and I noticed we have a lot of division in our country. discrimination, division, political parties, you name it. I said, oh, would it be neat if I would share this story about diversity and inclusion, humanity, hope, and love, above and beyond my family? And that's why I decided to take this book through the traditional publishing firm.
Life in Vietnam changed dramatically for your family after your father was sent to a Viet Cong re-education camp for helping Americans during the war. There's a fascinating part of the book where you describe yourself, and I'm imagining you as this tiny 10 or 11-year-old wheeling and dealing and taking big risks to sell counterfeit cigarettes to help support your mother and your siblings. How have those survival instincts stayed with you to this day? And how have these experiences you've had impacted you as a mother with children of your own?
By the way, for those of you who haven't read my book yet, which most of you have not, there's a part in my book about me being I was basically a cigarette dealer, okay? And my teenage children love this part. They just started reading the book this week. They could not believe that their petite mother was they call it a drug dealer. And they called their friends. They said, can you believe that my mom was a drug dealer? I said, I wasn't a drug dealer. I was just making counterfeit cigarette and I was dealing. To answer your question, you know, what really taught me from that experience is it doesn't matter whether we like our situation, but when it comes to surviving and taking care of your family, I would do whatever I can to take care of my family. Do I like or did I like the situation I was in? Absolutely not. Nobody, I didn't like to lie and cheat and being a counterfeit cigarette dealer, but I had to do that to put food on the table. And the lesson I want to teach my children from it is, it doesn't matter what happens to us. In order for us to survive and thrive, we just have to do what we can and don't give up.
Important lesson. I just want to remind our audience, if you have questions of your own, please put them into the chat and we will try to get to them shortly. Nhi, you wrote that when you came to America, you were struck by the abundance here. Curious as to how that appreciation for privilege and your history that include poverty and oppression, how has that shaped who you are today?
Going from poverty to abundance and what we have in this country gives me a huge gratitude for what I have today. Even now, every day, every morning, I have a gratitude journal next to my bed. And I write down 5 things I'm thankful for. And one of which is the abundance of food or whatever I come up with. It can be a toilet, but I write down what I'm thankful for, and we talk about it at our dinner table. And it gives me a deep sense of gratitude. It's just not just verbal. There were times when I have dinner with my family and we have an elaborate meal, and the family suddenly saw me tearing up.
What a powerful practice. In the book, you described the interfaith and often interracial couples that you encountered here in Denver during your Intro to Judaism course at the Rocky Mountain Rabbinic Council, which I think really speaks to the beautiful diversity among the Jewish community in Denver and the Denver community as a whole. But you write about the parallels between Vietnamese culture and Jewish culture. And I'm wondering if you could please share a bit with the audience about those reflections.
Thank you. What I found the parallel between the Jewish culture and the Vietnamese culture are we are immigrants. The Jewish people are also the immigrants who face the worst possible persecution and oppression imaginable. And when I went through that, I could relate to the people and the culture. We also focus so much on family and community and education. And the Vietnamese families are the same way. When you read my book, you will realize that, wow, Nhi's mother could barely put food on the table. I didn't even have underwear to wear at 10 years old. And yet my mother preferred to buy books for me than to buy underwear for me. So when I learned about the Jewish tradition and the people, I fell in love because I could relate to the experience.
Beautiful. As we mentioned earlier, you are an alum of Rose Community Foundation's Giving Circle for Jewish young professionals called Roots and Branches. Curious as to how your personal experiences inform your approach toward philanthropy, both then and now.
What I learned about from the Rose Community Foundation and Root and Branches is that you all taught me how to be a donor, which is a paradise of, it's a shift and the experience that most people don't have. We have to learn how to give instead of asking for money. And because of the experience and what you taught me through the Rose Community Foundation, my family and I learned to give and pay it forward. At our dinner table, our discussion sometimes would be, which organization children would you like to donate money to and support, and why? Give us your why and your reason why you think we should donate money. And so what you taught me in the past, I was able to implement it, not just for myself, but also for my family.
That's wonderful.
My husband usually says, you pay until it hurts.
Love it.
You donate until it hurts. He said, what's the best nation in the world? Donation.
I love that. We're going to borrow that. I'm going to take some questions from the audience. The first one is, what was the most difficult decision you've had to make to pursue your destiny?
What is the most difficult decision I had to make to pursue my destiny? I think every so often I run into challenges and I just have to follow my calling. I don't know what my calling is, but something in me tells me that I need to move forward and grasp the opportunity that's being presented in front of me. Do I know what it is? No, but I take my chance. And when you read my book, you will be able to tell that why is Nhi going with this? Why is Nhi going with this white lady from the South and then eventually being taken into her family and she became my legal guardian? Why did Nhi take a chance on Jeff when he did some crazy stuff along the way? And you will see that it's one thing that I usually did and still do is I follow my gut instinct.
Wonderful lesson. We have a question of, are you ready to share your experiences and future by running for political office to help mankind?
Oh, no, no, no. By the way, I will never run for office because I won't get elected. I'm brutally honest, okay? Everyone who knows me knows I'm brutally honest, and that won't work well with the American politics.
Fair enough. We have a question. There's a wave of violence against Asian American people across the nation right now. As a community, how can we best support you and other Asian members of our Jewish community?
That's an excellent question. In regard to violence, discrimination, and prejudice toward Asian and the Jewish community too. One thing I noticed and I've learned over the years, and you've read my book, you know, that I've dealt with discrimination, especially when I grew up in the South. And we cannot change somebody's mindset about their prejudice and discrimination. One thing we can change is stories, experience, and books that we share are the greatest agent of change. I've had people, I went back to Kentucky in October, and I've had people who came to me saying that, Nhi, I'm so glad you came into my life. You've changed my perspective about minority. And it means so much to me that I make a difference. And so for the audience who question, what can you do to help? Is if you can help sharing the story, spread the word about the book. Because in my book, I talk about the Jewish community, about the Asian community, the history and the people, and the Christian community as well. And you hear of the love and the humanity that are being shown to me. And that's what people want to hear, because we hear so much about racism and hate, but how about showing and sharing the love? That there are good people out there who've done that.
Beautiful, beautiful. Another question from the audience. What do you wish, they're moving. What do you wish non-refugees knew about the experience of coming to a new country under such challenging circumstances?
Say it again, please. What do I wish?
But what do you wish people who have not had a refugee experience, what do you wish people knew about the experience of being a refugee or being an immigrant to a new country under challenging circumstances?
Okay. I think for folks who have not gone through the refugee situation, one thing that we can understand is so challenging just to adapt to a new country. I think like I think there's a New York Times best-selling author, Mr. Alan Grant. He wrote this in my book, in the back of my book. He said that it's sad that refugees lead 3 lives: their life before being driven from their home, their life on the move, seeking refuge, and if they survive, a new life adapting to a foreign land. And your question is, what is it like? It is challenging to adapt to a new foreign land. And when people go through that, they don't speak English well, they don't hear well. It felt like being mute and deaf. Mm-hmm. Think of those folks, so that when you run into folks who are in that situation, just show them the kindness and the patience, and that's all they need.
There's a similar question in terms of what it was like to adapt to being in the United States, and what this person asked, what kind of supports do you wish you had that you didn't? But I would also add to that, which of the supports you had were the most important and transformative?
Okay. I think the support that I wish I had, I think would be nice if I had gotten the support from the community at that time, but I did not. Besides, I couldn't even speak English well. I didn't know how to ask for help. But the best support I got was from a teacher who met me in high school, and she was patient, nice, and kind to me. She took me in, tutoring me, and eventually became my legal guardian. And that's all I needed at the time. But prior to that, yes, I needed a lot of help, but I didn't even know how to get help.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever experience an awkwardness or even discrimination within the Jewish community as an Asian Jew of choice? And do we in the Jewish community need to be better educated to accept the diversity of our community?
At the beginning, when the first 5 years after I got married, I saw a lot of stares, but it was the curious stares, and especially at my shul, where, that it was in 2000, 20 something years ago. People didn't get used to seeing Asians in the synagogue, and I stood out like a sore thumb. It was uncomfortable for me, but people were very nice and kind to me once they got to know me.
A question about what have you enjoyed learning about Judaism the most? History, holidays, culture in general?
I think what I enjoy the most, you might laugh, but I love the friends I have. I love the friends I've made over the years. I love the culture. I love just the people. But the ones I value the most are the friends I've made in the Jewish community. And I guess many of them are here today supporting me.
Since your book launch is taking place while we're still in the hopefully end part of the pandemic, it's not a usual book tour, and you're forced to do more things virtually. So I think there's some interest in kind of knowing what a book tour looks like in this context, particularly coming from the same person who wants you to run for office. I think he wants to make sure you're getting out there. So there's this curiosity as to what that looks like.
You mean in terms of getting out and on a regular book tour? Since I'm a first-time author, I have no clue what a regular book tour is like. I just listen to my agent and my publicist. I just said, whatever you tell me, I just shut up and do it. If you want me to be on virtual video book tour, I will do it. Or like this morning when I did the book signing, bookstores don't even allow regular big gathering yet. And I show up with my son for a private book tour to sign books for people who pre-ordered. So I don't have a clue what a regular book tour environment is like.
Fair enough. An audience member says your story and your journey are phenomenal, and you are such an inspiration. Who is your role model and why?
My inspiration, I think the people who, I'm just so fortunate that I have some incredible people in my life who inspire me. Many people, they might be lucky to have one person who inspires them. But with me, it's my adopted mother, it's my husband who continuously supporting me and not trying to change me for who I am, who encouraging me, telling me that, Nhi, whatever you write, I will be completely fine. Just be yourself. If somebody doesn't like it, too bad. He or she can write his or her own story. He usually told me that to validate and help me put it in writing. And my mom, my father-in-law called regularly telling me, and just so you know, nobody in my family got to read the book until recently. Lindy, you probably got to read my book before many of my family members.
I'm honored.
My father-in-law only got his copy this morning in the mail, and he called me and cried.
That's beautiful.
And my husband, Jeff, only got to read it a month and a half ago. That's it. Nobody got to read it.
How do you think your family in Vietnam is going to respond to the book?
How I think my family in Vietnam will respond? Just so you know, they don't know what I wrote in the book.
Right.
Yet. As of today, they still haven't read the book. I mean, I didn't let anybody know. I have a feeling that my family will not be happy. They will appreciate that I honor my brother who passed away during his escape. But many Asian people are very private, especially Vietnamese families. And in my book, I discuss about the polygamy system, what it's like growing up in a family where a man had multiple wives and concubines, just some of the deep, dark secret that many people, Asian people, tend to put it in the back burner. They hide it. And I was brutally honest about the culture, what really happened behind the scene. That part, they might not like it. And then the other part that they don't know would be shocking for them is what happened to Nhi after I left them at 12 years old. It was a taboo topic that I never discussed with my family. So when they read this book, even if they ask me, I still would not be comfortable talking to them. I said, read the book and you will find out. I'm not going to translate for you. That one would be shocking for them.
Yeah. Well, successful memoirs are authentic and incredibly honest, and you were certainly both, and I am sure that they will be proud of and inspired by you, just as everyone who is commenting right now in the chat is as well. Want to remind folks we have a little extra time, so if you have some questions or need, please feel free to share. We have a question tying back to philanthropy. What values and life experiences guide your philanthropy? And is there a philanthropic approach that you hope to pass on to your children?
I think what I want my kids to understand and learn through philanthropy is have gratitude for what we have and always think of other people and what we can do, paying it forward. And that's something I remind my children and my family daily. The gratitude has to be first. And figure out a way to give it pay it forward. It can be time. It can be money. Money is not everything. That's ways you can do. You can pay forward by volunteering your time in certain organization and make a difference. And we just have to find the right calling for us.
If you could talk to your 12-year-old self, who was going through the jungle alone en route to a refugee camp, if you could talk to your 12-year-old self now, what do you think your 12-year-old self would be most surprised about your life today?
if I have to talk to my 12 years old self and what I have nowadays, I think it was unimaginable. For those of you who haven't read my book, when I was about 12, 13 years old, I was in a refugee camp. I was at my deepest depression and such a lonely time for me. When you live in an orphanage and you have no family nearby supporting you, it's not a fun experience. And I pray to God, whoever God was. I wasn't exposed to religion. I did not know who God was. I just said, God, universe, whatever you were. But if you really exist, I pray that you will give me a family to love and love me back. That's all I wanted, no material things. And I could never imagine in my life that silent prayer would lead me to a family to love. And now I not only have one family, I have 3 families who love me and I love them. I have my Vietnamese family. I have a Christian family who adopted me. And I have my Jewish family. They are my in-law, but they are my family. I don't see a difference in them. I don't see a difference in religion or skin color. They are my family. And it is not something that my 12 years old self could have ever imagined.
Amazing. We have an audience member who said the challenges you faced would have deterred most and killed some. What specifically about you allowed you to not only persevere, but to reach such a high level of success?
I don't know. I think recently my husband was being interviewed and he teared up whenever he talked about me. He said he lives with me and he just sees the indomitable spirit in me. And he said that is something that he knows that I want to teach our children about not giving up. You always work and fight for what you want. And the key is I don't give up whenever I have something in mind. I go laser focused. He called me the dog with a bone. My husband said, you are like a dog with a bone. Whenever you have something you want and you want to achieve, you go for it. And he said he wishes that many people would have it. And that's the spirit. He called it indomitable spirit.
Love it. There are so many people on this call who already know you and adore you, and people who are getting to know you now and falling in love with you. And everyone here is rooting for your success and the success of this book. What can we do as your community, as your neighbors, to help support the book and get the word out?
Okay. I think just that if you have and know of any influencers who can help spread the book even more, I would be thankful for the introduction. By the way, I want to meet Oprah one day. So if any of you have any connection with Oprah, let me know. My publicist sent the press release to Oprah, and her team said that they are considering to do a book review for me, but considering might be not, doesn't mean that it's a firm portion. I want it to be firm. So if you have any connection, let me know.
Fantastic. So one last question, and then we'll begin to bring this to a close. But there are lessons and learning for everyone, truly everyone, in your inspiring story. What are you most hoping that people will take away from your book?
What I'm hoping that the readers will get out of my book is, in spite of overwhelming odds, that things happen to us. Yes, bad things happen to us all the time. Either our health, family situation, personal matter, but just have hope that things will get better, that there's light at the end of the tunnel, that all things are possible if we have that intense desire and audacity to grasp it in any opportunity that comes our way. And that's something I teach my children. I said, if there's an opportunity coming our way, you don't know whether it's right or wrong, you might as well get it. And if it's not, you can try something else. But the key thing is bad things happen to us throughout our lives. What are we going to do with it? Just have hope that things will get better, that there are people, the good people out there who are there to help us. And don't think, because if we keep thinking that, oh, poor me, bad things happen, I'm being discriminated against, I don't like it, life is terrible. Guess what? If we have that negative mindset, negative things will happen to us. So we might as well think positively about the goodness and kindness of humankind.
Timeless wisdom, and couldn't come at a better time. Thank you, Nhi. You talked about gratitude, and I just want to emphasize how much gratitude we have, that you are in our community, that you shared your story with the world, and that you spent some time with us today on the day of your book launch. So huge thanks and gratitude to you, Nhi. We are sharing a link in the chat to remind everyone that you can purchase your own copy of Souls of a Survivor anywhere books are sold, a variety of online retailers, but we also want to encourage you to patronize our local bookstores as well. I bought my copy at the Bookies. Tattered Cover has it as well. So you will have no problem finding it. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you to the staff on this call, for everyone working behind the scenes to make this happen, and really and truly to our audience for joining us. Your comments and questions in the chat were fantastic, and I know Nhi can feel the love and support from all of you. I know for those of you who haven't read the book yet that you will be as captivated and inspired by Souls of a Survivor as I was. So again, please buy books for yourself, your family, your friends. They make great gifts. And as Nhi said, help spread the word as well. I know I left reviews today on Goodreads and Amazon, and we'll be doing so on Barnes & Noble. And so would encourage you to spread the word to your networks. Because once, oh yes, Nhi, go ahead.
Robert August just brought up some wonderful ideas. One thing that you all can help me to spreading the word is if you happen to have connection with the TVs, radio folks, and influencers, the media, I would love to be connected, and I can give you my publisher's contact, okay? And then the other part is because I'm a first-time author, online reviews are extremely important. I mean, even with my publishers, she represents 9 other celebrity authors. So who am I? I'm at the bottom of her list, or at least that's what I think, okay? So I have to compete even for my publisher's love and attention, because she has 9 other celebrities to deal with. So if you can help put reviews online like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, social media, it would mean a lot to me, because now people don't go to the bookstore to browse. They look at the book reviews before they buy books.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And somebody in chat suggested these make great graduation presents, which is a wonderful point. Father's Day, you name it. It is a gift of inspiration. And so again, Nhi, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for being an active and vibrant part of our community. Your memoir is truly a gift to all of us.